I'm Doug Massi. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel, Final Expense Trainer. So today we're going to do something special. If you are, especially if you're a new agent or maybe even like an experienced insurance agent and you're getting into final expense sales, what I'm going to be doing is basically talking about everything it takes to run final expense leads. And we're going to be touching on things like the presentation, overcoming objections, door knocking leads, calling to set appointments, the whole process, when to do it, when not to do it. You'll see exactly what I mean. So before we get started, I am going to ask you, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, do that now. We're putting out new content like all the time nowadays. And check this out. Throughout this video, I'm going to be talking about different sales materials that I use during my presentation. Here, perfect example, like when I use the guarantees of whole life insurance. And at that point, you're going to be able to ask me, I'm going to offer it up. You're going to be able to say, hey, Doug, can I get that? Yes, you can. But don't say, hey, Doug, I saw that video. Can you send me all that sales stuff? No. It's like tit for tat. We want to make sure you're actually watching our YouTube videos. So let's go ahead and roll the intro and get started, man. This is going to be good. When you're running final expense leads, and that really is the only way to sell final expense life insurance. And I say that not necessarily the only way. The only way you're going to do that at any type of mid or high level and have any success. Because final expense, let me just say, it's a product that we sell to mainly low-income folks who maybe weren't in a financial situation earlier where they thought, hey, now is the time to take care of it. So a lot of our people are procrastinators. And so now you're kind of coming in the last minute. They're already older and have health issues. And you're just making sure that their family isn't stuck having to pay the bill for the funeral or even the cremation. When you're running final expense leads, there are a couple of main leads to run. And I want to talk about the Facebook leads first. So you can purchase Facebook leads from different vendors. Agents on our team are getting them for as low as $9 each. And there's actually, if you do some research, there's a bunch of companies that sell them. Facebook leads are usually going to run you around, I want to say about $25, maybe $20 to $28. I wouldn't pay more than that. To me, you are so much better off if you just find a good program that'll teach you how to generate them yourself. Because now, if you're generating your own final expense Facebook leads, you're in a position where you're controlling the advertisement, you see what's going on, you know what you're putting out there. So now it's like you have a better grip. And a couple years ago, I did generate them myself, just for me in my local area. And I went out and door knocked them. I made some great sales. I got to say, if you can do that and you're a new agent, that's a great way to go. However, your goal, if you want to be a producer, if you want to make some decent money selling final expense insurance, you really want to run your direct mail leads. Now, you've got a couple of different options for the direct mail leads, the direct mailers. The first option, there's a lot of companies out there that will do a mail drop for you. There's even a couple that'll do it like a fixed cost lead option. And it depends on where you're at, because the returns on these mailers are getting worse and worse and worse, which means that the cost is going up and up and up. And to me, you really want to get yourself on a fixed cost lead program. But if you're new, a fixed cost lead program, you're basically committing to several weeks worth of leads, because once, like a company like with our agents that are on our fixed cost lead program, we do the mailers. We start mailing this week. We mail more the next week, the third week. By the fifth week, the leads start to come in. So it's more of a commitment for a long-term talented producer to me. And that's why I suggest starting maybe with the Facebook leads, get through some of the learning curve, and then get your butt on those direct mailers as soon as possible. The direct mail leads are going to cost you about $30 if you're doing a fixed cost lead program like ours. Now, if you are actually doing your own mailing through a lead vendor. Now, there's a couple that'll do it. Need a Lead, they'll do it for you. It's going to be around $550, $600 per thousand, but you could get back 3 leads. You could literally end up paying $200 per lead. That's the only concern about that. But Need a Lead, I bring them up because they actually also do have a fixed cost program. So there's a way they'll do some mailing for you and they'll guarantee you a cost. It's probably going to be around $35, a little bit more, and the quality may not be the greatest, but at least you know what you're paying for. At least you know you're not going to. I did a mailing years ago. I dropped like 5,000 pieces, and when they all came back, I figured I had paid over $100 per lead. So you don't really want to be in that, but unfortunately, that's the risk when we do our own mailing. The company I really like the most for doing a direct mail leads drop is the Leads connection. So this guy, Chris in Texas, he's very honest. So when I first got in the business, I was dropping my own mail. We were doing it, and we did it for at least 4 or 5 months, lots of mail, maybe 6 months. And I tried a few different companies, and his always had the best return. I always got more leads from him than I did the other vendors. And the Need a Lead, I've never used their I've never done their mail drops. So we've had agents that bought fixed costs because they like that guaranteed cost. So to me, again, the Leads connection is what they're called. A guy named Chris in Texas. I think the cost is going to be around $600 per thousand. And, at least if you get back 15, then you're paying 40, but there's no guarantees. Again, depending on the area you're in. That's why we love our direct mail leads fixed cost lead program. So let's talk about what to do when you actually get the leads. They start coming in. Well, what do? I'm a new agent, whether it's Facebook or whether it's direct mail. Our industry is really based on door knocking. That's how all the old schoolers started. And when I first got into it, I was told, Doug, look, don't call the leads, just go out and door knock them. And that's what I did. Mariana, my wife, and I both did that for several months. We got very successful by doing that. And then it came down to the point where we kept increasing our leads. So we were dropping thousands, and then by the time we found our fixed cost lead program, which all of our agents have, we were able to get, if we wanted 80 leads a week, we could do that. So basically what we did was we went from 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 leads. Some weeks we basically said just turn it on. Take the wheels off and turn it on. And there was times when we were getting 60 to maybe even 100 leads per week. And that's one of the reasons we did so well. So why am I telling you this? Because to me, when you've got a lot of leads coming in, that's when you need to be calling these people. Otherwise, if you're only working, to me, like 20, maybe even, I want to say anything less than 30 leads a week, okay? So this is week after week after week after week after week. Under 30, to me, you're still kind of part-timing it. The best way to squeeze the life out of those leads is to door knock them. That's my opinion. You can call them. There's nothing wrong with that because eventually you really need to start calling them at some point anyways. But we didn't start calling them until we had plenty of leads. I think we had, maybe 30, 40 leads coming in a week. And then I was like, you know what? I need to start calling them. And what I realized is with a really good script, which was something that I pretty much had to put together, it's not that difficult, but you have to know how to do it. So let's talk about when you're calling the leads. You've got plenty of leads. Let's say you're out there, you're door knocking, you want to get into calling your leads after you've been door knocking. My suggestion, no matter what, really, is to at least door knock all your leads for the first month or two. Get used to it. You've got to become talented at door knocking your leads. And now, once you've been doing it for a while, you get on the phone, you start calling to set appointments. So you need a really good phone calling script. So here, this is the first giveaway. We have what's it called? The appointment setting super file. This thing has appointment setting scripts that I've developed, that I've used, that all of our top agents are basically using the same thing. And if you just stick with the script, you'll be fine. We've got it for Facebook leads, we've got them for direct mail leads, and we've even got them for telemarketed leads. Now, let me just warn you, these overseas companies that are selling these cheap $12 telemarketed leads, most of them are not scrubbing the data. So we've already seen a lawsuit. We've already learned the hard way. And it's really difficult to figure out if it's scrubbed. They all will promise you, they'll swear they're scrubbed, they're scrubbed. Scrubbed means that they've been checked on the do not call list. And you could even check your own phone. If you Google do not call, you could probably figure out how to check if they're scrubbed. But the problem is, the only way to find out for sure if these vendors are selling you scrubbed telemarketed leads is to actually, this is kind of messed up, is to actually buy some from them and then start checking them. So that's the whole problem. Telemarketed leads, they're cheap. If you're getting them from someone you trust, okay. I do have someone, if you wanted to purchase them from me, we can do that. You don't have to be on our sales team for telemarketed leads. You would have to be on our sales team to get access to the Facebook leads and the direct mail leads because they're just so difficult to generate. But the only reason I'm bringing up the telemarketed leads, I don't really want to sell them, but we do. If you need them, they're cheaper. We can give you a good price on them, and at least you'll know they're safe. They're scrubbed against the do not call list. So with those leads, let me start with this. When you're calling to set appointments, we've got that appointment setting super file, and it even has a script on overcoming objections, which is going to be very important for you guys that are selling. But to me, if you're door knocking your leads, even if you are, and I know I'm going back and forth from calling to set appointments to door knocking, but you really want to show them the lead. You don't want to give them the lead. And what I'll do is, here, I'll give you an example. I've got a stack of leads here somewhere, and, oh, okay, here we go. So I don't want to show you a lead with a client's information on it because I don't want you to go and sell my clients, my potential clients. But here you go, here we go. Here's one, this guy, I got to go door knock this guy. So the way I door knock my leads, here's how I do it. I have the leads clipped together, very simple. A bunch of leads, and this is only a few, but normally I'll have like 20, 30 leads and then another 10 of my medical questions page. The medical questions page, you can also ask for that. I'll give you that. If at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to get the medical questions page and the appointment settings super file. So just, I would say, make note, write them both down. But generally the way I do the door knock is, and I have a pen here, I have the leads, I have the lead, and I try to be as vague as possible. I never say the word life insurance when I'm setting appointments or when I'm door knocking. I do everything I can. When they're saying, what's this about? Is this insurance? I tell them these are special programs regulated by the state for people on Social Security. Are you on Social Security, ma'am? Okay, I should be able to do something really good for you. Where can we sit down real quick? So when they give me the objection, that's kind of the push. But what we do is we simply show them, hey, Mrs. Jones, you had filled out the little card about the special benefits for Florida residents that are on Social Security, and I need to verify, are you receiving your Social Security or disability benefits? You are? Great. Well, we should be able to do something really good. I've been trying to reach you. Where can we sit down real quick? So that's kind of how I'm doing it. And I'm motioning forward as I'm saying, where can we sit down real quick? Because the idea is to get them to either back up, or they may even stop. They may back up and open the door wide for you, or they may slow down and be like, whoa, what is this? Well, these are the special benefits. Remember this card? That's when you kind of stick it in their face. And it's funny because they're going to give you different objections. The script that I have in there for overcoming objections is really going to help you. But let me just touch on this real quick. Let me put this down. I don't want to lose my leads. Keep them in order because we do so many different areas. My wife and I still go out and sell. So basically, a lot of people, their knee-jerk reaction when you're calling to set an appointment or when you're door knocking leads is to get rid of the salesperson. Okay, we all do that. We're all guilty of that, right? So the trick is to get them to lower that security wall. Let them know, ma'am, I do not have to sell you anything. As a matter of fact, I'm required to come here. My boss does. And generally it takes me about 20 minutes. I'll tell you what, why don't I give you the short version? I'll give you like the 10-minute version. That way at least I can tell my boss that I was here. Otherwise, he's just going to send somebody else here. It's a real pain in the butt. So where can we sit down real quick? That's how I do it. And I do the same thing over the phone. It's basically the same thing. I let them know. I give them the short version. One of the things that I'll tell them over the phone is, Mr. Jones, look, I don't have to sell you anything. That's not it. These are about the special benefit plans for the Florida residents that are on Social Security. So I do need a few minutes to sit down with you. And look, the last thing I'm going to do is try to push something on you that you may or may not want. I'm simply going to go over the options to see if you qualify for anything, and you're either going to be really happy that I came out or not, and we'll shake hands and I'll be on my way. So I've got an opening tomorrow between 9 and 9:30. How's that with you? Okay? Again, guys, if you follow the script and you read how I overcome the objections in that appointment setting super file, you're probably going to be fine once you start doing this for a little while. How about another giveaway? So we have these delivery notices. They come out like this actually, but I don't have it with me. But it's a page that you can get from me if you just ask me for, and I'll tell you at the end of the video how to get it, the delivery notices. That way when you go and you're knocking on someone's door and you've been there a couple of times and you're like, okay, let me just leave a delivery note. You put a piece of tape on it and boom. That way, what they'll actually do is they'll call you. Now, here, I'll give you a pro tip for working delivery notices. When they call you and you're still in the area, don't pick up the phone because then they might get rid of you. And now you're having to go there even after they tell you not to come. So, which to me, like, by the way, since I mentioned that, when you're calling to set appointments and they say, no, I don't want anybody here, look, they filled out the card. You're required to go there. This is your livelihood. So what I'll do is, okay, no problem. A week later, I'll show up. And half the time, they're completely different in person. You'd be super surprised. So with the delivery notice, back to the pro tip. What I'll do is I'll leave it on the door. It's got my phone number. They'll call my number, and what I do is all the leads that I have with the delivery notices, I keep them on the side. So if it's a phone number that's in that area, and I think for some reason, especially that it might be that client, and they don't leave a message, I'm going to go back there and door knock it. But that's what I do. I'll look for the phone number. I'll think, could this be that person? And then I'll go back. I don't answer. If they're going to leave me a message, that's one thing. But to me, what the ideal scenario is, they call, I recognize who it is, and I go right back over there. That's how you want to do the delivery notices. That's your pro tip for the day. So let's talk a little bit about the final expense presentation. And with that, I'm gonna give you there's a video. If I remember to link it here, sometimes it doesn't always work that way. I'm going to try to do that. There is a 3-part series that I put together called The Final Expense Presentation. So you'll see on the thumbnail part 1, part 2, part 3. So hopefully I'm going to remember to have linked it here for you. And that way you can just watch it from part 1 to part 2 to part 3. And what I do in this training is I break down my entire presentation from start to finish, and I teach you why I'm doing what I'm doing and what I'm saying. And there's a few really, really good techniques that I use in those videos also that, to me, if you're new, those are must-see videos. You're going to learn so much. But the idea is, give you the short version, the idea of your final expense presentation is you want to make a presentation that's going to build rapport throughout the presentation. So one of the things I recommend, especially to newer agents, is to have yourself a personal commercial, which is basically a short story, just like a 2 or 3 minute story about yourself, your family, how you got into the business, how you love what you do, because at the end of the day, you know you're helping people and you're going to be able to sleep really good tonight. So it's kind of got to be that thing. In my story, I'll talk about how I was originally recruited as a Hartford life insurance agent, and that I always sold this one product and it was kind of expensive and that's what I sold. But now, instead of working for a company, I make the companies work for my clients. And that's why the way we do it, like an insurance broker. And the cool thing about being the type of insurance broker that I am is, Mrs. Jones, we work with a group of senior advocates licensed here in the great state of Florida. And by me being part of this group and working with these people, I'm able to get some of the best rates you're ever going to see. And we have access to all the top companies, especially the ones that have their products specifically designed for people on Social Security. Mrs. Jones, you did say you're on Social Security. Okay, great. I'm definitely going to be able to do something really good for you. So throughout your personal commercial, you kind of open it up, you build a rapport. Throughout your presentation, you want to separate yourself from all the other agents. And one of the ways to do it is, while doing and this is another pro tip, and this is going to sound crazy, One of the best agents that I've ever seen. He worked with us for a little while he was going to college. This guy was just a workaholic, going to college and becoming a fireman. So he wanted to do something on the side. He ended up beating, let's put it this way, here's how good he was. He ended up beating my record. He did 14 applications, all final expense in one day. So that's the kind of guy this guy was. And this is just maybe, I want to say about 3 years ago. He's a fireman now. He still writes a little bit. But the thing that he does that's unique is he brings an old style little picture album. He walks it into the house, he shows pictures of his family, and he uses it to make his personal commercial. And he even shares a story about like an uncle and aunt who both passed away. And when the uncle passed away, he didn't have the insurance and it was a big mess. But when the aunt finally passed away, she had learned not to leave that to her family, so she had the insurance, so she didn't leave anybody stuck the way that her husband did. So that's the idea. Through your presentation, you're building a rapport. You're separating yourself from all the other insurance agents. And again, watch that 3-part series. I'm telling you, it's really good. And when you get down to it, at some point, you're going to need to figure out which company, if you're working as an insurance broker, which is what we teach our independent agents, you're going to be figuring out which company do I use. So what I do when it comes time to do that, and it's giveaway time, is I break out, and this is something that we've put together, and if you want a copy of I Am Your Policy, and I don't know if you can read this, 8 Reasons Seniors Purchase Final Expense Plans, you can just, at the end of the video, I'll show you how to get these for yourself, maybe write those down. But what I do is, you notice I've got them laminated, and I also have the guarantees of whole life laminated. We'll get to that in a second. But that way, when I'm doing the pricing and I'm figuring out, okay, which carrier am I going to use? And I always show 5 options, by the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand them this. I'm going to say, guys, can you grab your glasses? I need you to read something while I'm doing this. And I ask them to read both sides. If it's a husband and wife, I tell them, read both sides. Because you'll find that what these things do is they add to the, I want to say, the suggestive presentation that you're making, which puts them into yes mode, and it only makes it easier for you to close the sale. Like you giving these 2 items and having them read it, it cannot hurt you. It can only help you, and I highly recommend you do this, especially if you're new. Here's what I'll tell you. I was in the business for a few years. One of our top guys said, Doug, you should try this. He turned me on to it. When I tried it, my numbers went up immediately. So I'm telling you, if you do this right, that way they're not going to get up and start wandering around and doing something else and lose the attention. You want to keep them, I'm going to use the word hypnotized, but in that suggestive mode where they're listening and they're highly susceptible to suggestion. So, and that's what a good presentation does. That's the presentation that I use, that I teach. That's what it does. So during the presentation, at some point, you do need to explain, before you do the pricing, the guarantees of whole life insurance. In other words, you want to tell them, look, Mrs. Jones, what I do is different. I don't believe in that term life stuff. Do you understand how term life and whole life work? Most people will say, yeah, I'm pretty sure. No problem. Let me explain. The stuff that you're seeing on TV is usually going to be either term life insurance, or it's the type of whole life insurance where you got to pay into it for years before it's active. So what I do is completely different, Mrs. Jones, and that's when you read to them the guarantees of whole life insurance. And one of the cool things about this card is at the bottom it says, this is not like term life insurance where the price goes up and the policy expires at a certain age and you get nothing back. This is whole life insurance. It's good until the day you die, your entire life. That way, when you pass away, when you're supposed to, hopefully a long time from now, your family isn't going to be stuck having to come out of pocket for the funeral stuff or the cremation stuff. So that's how we want to do it, guys. Now, let me get into a couple more things. So the whole idea of making that big presentation is so that we don't have all the things we're doing in the presentation. We want to eliminate the objections at the end. And you're going to find, I love this. I go to people's house, they say, okay, you can come in for 5 minutes. That's it. And then 45 minutes later, I'm leaving with a check and you know, they're a total buyer. Other times they'll tell you, look, I'm not going to buy anything today. I'm just warning you. It's the same thing. You got to push through that stuff. If your presentation is good, the way that my presentation is, the way that the agents on our sales team, they use the presentation, you're going to find you're going to get less objections. As to where if you try to do a short presentation as a new agent, let me just say this, if you're new and you're trying to use this real short presentation, you're going to get a lot more objections. It may actually be enough to put you out of business. You may give up like immediately. It could be so rough. That's why you want to use a good, strong presentations. Now, let's go back a little bit. If you're like producing, you're working at least 40, 50, 60 leads a week. Now, you may not have the time. If you're doing what I do and you're calling to set appointments and you're booking up your day, you may not have the time to make a long presentation. And that's fine because you've got enough people to see. But don't you dare this is the pro tip. Especially if you're newer, not necessarily have to be newer, because some people are like, well, I've been selling life insurance for years, but then final expense is a different animal. So what you don't want to do is be getting like 10 or 15 leads a week and give a 5-minute presentation. If you're only working, to me, if you're working less than 30 leads a week, you've got plenty of time to make a long tail presentation. That is exactly what you should be doing. And speaking of objections, so I'm going to give you another tip. Sometimes they will give objections. We'll talk about this. I shouldn't say sometimes, a lot of times they're going to give you objections. But there's two main reasons people give objections. I don't care what the objection is. Oh, I've got to talk to my cousin Joe first. I don't do anything when I first meet somebody. Whatever, especially that objection, is easy to overcome. So the whole idea of overcoming objections is to know what the objection is about. It's either usually about cost and or trust. In other words, they don't trust you enough to do it. Especially at the end, it's often, if they don't say it's about the cost, it's often about, and they give that excuse like, well, I got to talk to somebody first, or I never buy anything when I first meet anybody. That's usually about trust. So what you'll need to do is, if it's about trust, you're going to go back. You need to rebuild your rapport. Super, super important. Spend the time doing it. You can have like a second personal commercial that talks about bring out your insurance license, about what you do to help people. I'll show them my driver's license, my insurance license. I go one step further. So I have my own little website. It's like a cheap Wix website I put together years ago. I probably need to update it because it's working a little weird, but I only use it on my smartphone to show my clients, look, what I do is you'll see my little logo. We all have, if you're an insurance, you should have your own insurance agency, at least have your corporate name. So ours is United Final Expense Services. So all of our agents, if you want to use our logo, our agents can do that with their ID. And I keep that on my shirt. The ID is always on my shirt. I look kind of clean and professional. I don't overdo it. I don't wear a jacket or anything, but a lot of times I will wear a long sleeve shirt. Some of the houses we go in are a little bit dirty, so the long sleeves actually helps to protect you from the environment. So what I do is this Wix website, I'll pull it up, you'll see my logo on it, and you'll see an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau right on the top. To me, that is so solid. And what I did was I went one step further. We've been given awards. Being a top producer, we've been to a lot of award things, and I've had really nice awards. I've got a picture on there with my wife and myself holding an award. And so what I do is I show them, look, one of the things I do to go back and rebuild rapport is let them know, look, I've been doing this a long time. And I'm telling you guys, you can do this from day one. You can get the Wix website. You can get a Better Business Bureau membership. It's going to cost you about $500 a year. And right off the bat, they're going to give you an A rating. On the second year, they're going to give you an A+ rating. It's silly easy. So if you're not showing it to anybody but your clients, and you're not telling people to go there and give you ratings and give you, make a comment or anything like that, then you're never going to have an issue. It doesn't matter if you get some crazy person that is just trying to do you harm and wants to mess you up. They can't, because they're not going to know, because you're only using this when you need to go back and rebuild rapport. Look, this is my A+ rating. You see and then I go to the About Me page and I said, that's a picture of my wife and myself. We got an award for our customer service. So I don't tell them that the award came from the Better Business Bureau, but a lot of times they put it together. And it really helps them have a lot more trust. So that way, when you go back to do your price drop, okay, so trust or cost. I kind of treat it as both. If I really think they've got the money and I've already showed 5 options, I will say, so after I go back to rebuild the report, I'll say, so Mrs. Jones, can I make a suggestion? They're always going to say, sure, of course. Let's just start with the bottom option. That way, at least you've got enough to cover the bare minimum. And your daughter, Sarah, guys, you're going to find out who the beneficiary is at the beginning of your presentation if you're doing it right, and you're going to mention that name. It's your daughter, Sarah. You're going to mention Sarah, Sarah, Sarah throughout the presentation. So at that point, you're going to say, can I make a suggestion? Let's just go with that bottom option. That way, at least Sarah doesn't get stuck having to come out of pocket to pay for the bare minimum. Go ahead and grab your ID, please. So the idea is you get them to start moving, to go and do it. And you'll be surprised. They'll go right to it. Then if it really is about price, they'll go, well, no, I honestly, I can't afford the $63. Oh, you didn't say that. I'm sorry. It's my fault. A lot of times, unfortunately, I've been taught to show these numbers, so I think I can do something good. What I'll do is I'll drop the price and I'll do the exact same thing. I usually cut it in half, so at least I've got something. Hey, what's the saying? Half a loaf is better than nothing. So, or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. So $60, I'll drop it down to $30, $35, and I'll write it out for them, and I'll say, can I make a suggestion? And I will say that a second time. Let's go ahead and go with the bottom option. That way, at least it's something you can afford. Go ahead and grab your ID, please. And that's how I go to close those people where you have to overcome the objection. One last thing. I always leave behind, if it's a big sale, I have folders that I printed. You don't need these, okay? You may want to do it eventually. You become a professional. You're selling at a high level. It's great because it just makes you look that much more professional. What I do is in here is the schedule of Social Security benefits. You can, at the end of the video, I'm going to show you, we're about 1 minute, I'm going to show you how to get this. And the cool thing about the Social Security benefits is you're going to let them know, look, when the bank takes the payment, they're going to do it on the day you receive your Social Security benefits. They'll never do it before. They're going to follow this calendar just like Social Security does. And you can even circle. If it's a third Wednesday, you can circle it. So if it's going to start in August, let's see, the third Wednesday is the 18th. In September, the third Wednesday is the 15th. You mark it for them. It's a great way to help them out with that. Another thing that I leave is that policy summary right there. Policy summary is awesome. That's where you write down your monthly premium, your draft date. If you want a copy of this, the policy summary, write that down. I'm going to hook you up with that too. And the one that I'm going to send you, you can even put your name and your phone number in there. You can print it in there because it's PDF, easy. And this is where we write down the monthly premium, the draft date, and it talks about the guarantees of whole life insurance. And it has a cool little statement in here. Warning, if another agent tells you that your policy is not exactly what I have shown you today, they are not telling you the truth. And it's cool because it's in red too. So your business card, of course, and a brochure. I've got a brochure in here from Transamerica just because I'm writing a lot of them. But if I write something different, American Amicable or whatever company, then I'll take this out and just put in the brochure from that company. I'm old school, guys. I walk in with a big, thick 3-ring sales book with a bunch of stuff in there. I still like to use paper apps as a backup. But I have a really unique system that I teach our agents how to do e-apps without having to waste too much time with the client. It's super awesome. I can't share that. That's kind of like, I can't talk to you about that. If you were one of our agents, you'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe you do that, Doug. You need to come ride with me. So guys, with all that said, thank you so much for watching the video. If you'd like a copy of all the sales material that I mentioned in the video, just shoot me an email at doug@ufesonline.com. If you're interested in working with us, maybe joining our sales team, I use that, but you're really an independent agent with us. If you have your contracts with us, and we do give top contracts, you're going to have access to all of our lead programs. You're going to have access to special training. I mean, we do multiple Zoom calls every week. We're doing stuff that's so outside of the box. It's crazy. Guys, thanks again. And very important, remember, when you put the needs of your clients first, everything else will usually fall right into place. So get out there and do something good for somebody today. Happy hunting.